Hey guys, Todd James here. My channel is about Amazon. This video has basically nothing to do with Amazon. It's just something that came up last night when I was talking to some of my students on Microsoft Teams, and we just got into kind of a long-term conversation. And I just thought it would be an interesting story to tell because they found it to be kind of amusing or kind of interesting. But I've been an entrepreneur my whole life. I basically have never relied on an employer to pay for my life. And when I say my entire life, I'm talking about since I was about 16 years old. I have always had some type of business that was running and that was making money. And I've been very fortunate over the years to have a number of businesses that were very successful, and I was making money well ahead of where most people in my peer group were. Anyway, when I was in my early 20s, kind of the first big business with major upside that I got involved with was house flipping. And this is before the phrase house flipping had ever come about. But I started buying a house, I bought another house in the first year. And I'm a big believer in kind of deep learning. I want to know everything there is to know before I really go in with both feet. So I went and got my broker's license, and just really became a student of the industry, of the real estate industry, and it served me well to this day. I mean, we're talking 40 years now, and I've owned dozens and dozens of houses. I've owned hundreds of apartment units. And all the reason I'm even telling you this part is just because I encourage the people I work with, the clients I work with, to get involved with deep learning. If you want to do business on Amazon, really do business on Amazon. Don't approach it as a hobby. Don't approach it as just some type of get-rich-quick thing, because it's definitely not a get-rich-quick scheme. But what it can do is it can provide you with the opportunity to grow a massive business that's highly profitable and that will sustain you for years to come. But anyway, back to the houses. So the houses, when I started making some good money, everybody looks for motivation, and my motivation is maybe a little bit oversized. A friend of mine, his motivation was the Suzuki off-road vehicle. I'm going to say a Suzuki Jeep, but it wasn't, Jeep is a brand name, but you know what I'm talking about. It was I don't remember if it had a name, a particular model name, but it was a little Suzuki four-wheel drive vehicle. And in the 80s, they were all over the place. They were really popular. And he had 2 or 3 models of them that he had built sitting on his windowsill in his office, and that was what he aspired to. I aspired to owning a private jet. And there was one jet in particular. It was really the first of its kind. It was called a Gulfstream Peregrine, named after the Falcon. And it was the first single-engine jet, I think, ever. I'm not sure, but I mean, it was the first modern single-engine jet. And it was also a jet that was going to be certified out of the box for single-pilot operation. And it was supposed to sell for about $1.6 million, which at the time, that was cheap for a jet. And this is something I set my sights on, early on. I had posters of this jet all over my walls. And I had them in the bathroom, beside the bathroom mirror, so I could see it in the morning when I was taking my shower. I had it in my bedroom. I had them in my living room, my kitchen. If you walked into my house at the time, you would have thought that I was an aviation nut for sure. And I was, and still am. But anyway, if you Google Gulfstream Peregrine, you'll see that only one of those planes was ever built. It was a prototype, and Gulfstream just felt like the market wasn't there for this plane. And there were also some FAA rules that were a problem for them. So anyway, they never built the plane, and I never got one. But as life has gone on, and just for the record, this wasn't complete insanity on my part. I started taking flying lessons when I was 16. Got my private pilot's license at 18. By the time I was 20, and basically about the time this story is kind of set, I was multi-engine rated. I was instrument rated, and I was a serious a serious hobbyist when it came to flying. I had no desire to be a pilot, professionally, but I wanted to be a pilot so I could fly myself around. So anyway, that plane didn't happen. About 5 or 6 years ago, I was approached by some people that asked if I wanted to buy a fractional ownership interest in a private jet. And you all can Google fractional ownership, but what it basically means is they guarantee you so many hours per year of availability for a private plane, and then you may own that plane, or you may just own the ability to acquire a plane very quickly, and you pay different amounts based on how many hours a year you anticipate using it. I ran the numbers, and it didn't make sense for me. The numbers weren't crazy, but I fly quite a bit, but I'm also a cheap bastard. And, when I'm looking at flying costs, that would be in some cases, $5,000 an hour versus what I'm paying to fly business class in a plane, in a commercial aircraft, which is nowhere near that. Even first class isn't anywhere near that. It just didn't make sense to me. So anyway, I ran the numbers last year again, looking at possibly either buying or going in with some partners and buying like a Honda jet or a Vision jet, something like that. Because I would still love to fly my own plane, I really would. But what you don't understand if you're thinking about buying a plane, just so you won't go down the same dead end that I went down. And there's really no point to this story. I'm sorry. I'm just telling you because we had a conversation about it last night. But if you look at a Honda jet, which is probably the most affordable plane out there to both buy and to operate, it's a very efficient aircraft. And I should point out, I'm from the town where the Honda jets are made, Greensboro, North Carolina. I have been to the factory on several occasions and toured it, and it's a wonderful airplane and would fit my needs perfectly. But with that said, you're looking at an entry point of between $4 and $5 million to buy that plane. And let's say, for the sake of argument, I could swing that. Well, what people don't understand is buying the plane is probably the smallest the smallest financial part of owning a plane. Planes have to have inspections done based on the calendar and based on flying hours. And a plane like a Honda jet, or any jet for that matter, it needs to be stored indoors. There's a bunch of fees that are incurred just by having a plane sitting at the airport, even if you don't fly it. So long story short, the cost of owning a Honda jet, you're probably looking at something in terms of close to $1 million a year to own a Honda jet. And that's if you fly a fairly limited schedule. Now, if I wanted to fly myself, I would have to fly about 10 hours a week. I believe it's 500 hours a year to be able to fly that jet anywhere I wanted to go. I believe the current regulations allow me to fly that plane in the U.S. with 400 hours a year, but I know going to Europe, I believe it's 500 or 550 hours a year. So, you're talking about 10 hours a week of flying. Honda jet costs you about $1,600 an hour to fly. So, you're looking at $16,000 a week to fly that plane in order to maintain your license. Well, I don't travel that much. I could travel a lot, but I don't need to travel 10 hours or fly 10 hours a week. So, what that means is I would have to hire a pilot every time I wanted to go somewhere to fly my jet. And it just doesn't make sense. So again, I'm a cheap bastard, but I look at people, and there's no criticism intended here, but I look at Mark Cuban, who's flying around, and I think he's got a Gulfstream 650 or a Gulfstream 700, seats about 16 people. Hey, I envy that, and I admire that, and I'm happy for him. But honestly, even though I'm doing what I think of as big business, 8-figure seller on Amazon year over year, and I'm making more money than I need to live, the phrase fuck you money comes to mind, and I don't think I'm there yet. In fact, I don't think I'll ever get there. No matter how much I grew my business, you've got to get to a point where money just doesn't matter. It just doesn't matter at all. And when I'm talking about Mark Cuban, the plane he's flying around in is probably somewhere in the neighborhood of $3,500 to $5,000 an hour to fly. So the value of my time is far less than his, and I just don't have the mentality that would ever let me waste that much money. And waste, I shouldn't call it waste. But I mean, I can fly first class anywhere in the world, and I can do some extravagant first class trips if I wanted to. Fly to the Middle East and go into La Residence. I think excuse me. I think it's like $24,000 from Atlanta to Dubai. You have your own bathroom, your own chef. You have like a 300 square foot apartment in the sky. But when you're talking about a 12-hour flight, it's not worth $2,000 an hour for me to do that. And I'm perfectly happy taking a shower before I get on the plane and taking one when I get into the hotel after I get off the plane. And I'll fly business class for about $1,100 and be very happy, very content. I mean, if you say, yeah, but what about the food or what about the service? Well, I got to tell you, $20,000 for dinner on an airplane, that's the most expensive food you're ever going to have. I think, honestly, the astronauts' food is worth less than that. And they've got to boost it out of the gravity well of the planet. So anyway, like I said, this was the video with no purpose other than just to kind of take note of the conversation I had last night with a couple of my students. We were talking about things that they wanted, and several of them said they wanted to have a mega yacht. And honestly, the numbers on a mega yacht are kind of the same, sadly. It's breathtakingly expensive to own one of those yachts. And most people would never have the ability to use it enough to justify that. But hey, we all have our dreams. My dreams have been crushed under the foot of reality. So it's only fair that I crush your dreams a little bit if you're looking to buy a jet or buy a yacht. But anyway, that's all. Hey, this channel is usually about Amazon stuff. If you're into Amazon, if you want to get bigger on Amazon or get started, how about giving me a like and subscribe? It helps the channel out. I am rebuilding it after being gone for 2 years and traveling around the world. And I'm looking to get back and jump in here and try and help the community a little bit. So hit that like and subscribe button if you're into Amazon, and I appreciate you watching.